We heard it earlier. They were talking a little bit about the whole Trump thing, and I've this has just been so fascinating to watch how Trump has become like the hero, the good guy. It's so crazy. Like the media is just letting him go. They're like, right. Like a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, he was literally like, if like Satan and Hitler were to clone a baby, it would be, and then maximize it times a million. That would be Trump. Trump was literally the worst villain humanly imaginable. Like it doesn't even get any more villainous than Trump, according to them, right? And now he's like cover of New York Times, ringing the New York Stock Exchange. Like he's like the good guy, dude. He's winning lawsuits. Like he's like the good guy all of a sudden. I'm like, okay, hold on. What's going on here? Like this is not something big's going on here. So I don't know. Trump's the good guy all of a sudden. So we got a Trump nuclear woke meltdown from Jeremy at the Quartering, and then Trump wins a big lawsuit from Asmongold. This guy crushes apparently. So let's check it out. We'll be right back.
Let the triggering begin. Donald Trump named Time Person of the Year. The meltdown has been spectacular. But on top of that, he has now indicated that he will be freeing all J6 prisoners ASAP. And Mark Zuckerberg made a very spicy donation that is upsetting a lot of people on both the left and the right because it appears he's trying to buy favor or power. Of course he is. That's what Mark Zuckerberg does. That's what he's always done. I hope Trump just takes his money and then investigates Facebook anyway because of the wild, wild censorship that they've imposed. Let's take a look at all this. By the way, today only, our gift box. But you might as well save some money today. We're also putting out, okay, mainstream media, but also Hitler, Time Person of the Year. I mean, what's wild? In this edition, they sliced and diced him with articles full of sarcasm and insults. We'll see how the Person of the Year treats him. This year, this is his Person of the Year. I'm sorry. This is when he won presidency in 2016, 2017. You know, here you have the meltdown from the Krasensteins. Time has a long history of featuring both heroes and villains on its cover. Congrats to Trump for being named Person of the Year. The real question is, does he fall into good person or bad person category? I mean, first of all, meltdown much? Krasenstein, aren't you the guy that said that you thought it was totally okay for, to be in the buff around kids or something like that? Here is some more unhinged. Here's goes how it started. His mugshot, classic mugshot, by the way. How it's going. The second time he has held this honor, Person of the Year, was 2016. And as you might expect, the wokies are not taking it well. Liar, convicted felon, groomer, pedo, ruined America on his first term. But but Time thinks he's Person of the Year? What an absolute joke. Basically everything he mentioned there is completely unfounded. Of course, Barbara Othmer writes, I have canceled my subscription. Having him as Person of the Year once was bad enough, but two, I guarantee you this woman does not subscribe to Time Magazine. If this woman can prove that she subscribes to Time Magazine and send me proof, I will pay for her subscription next year. I don't believe it. Pastor Ben, Time is a loop. He's a bad guy Trump is literally Hitler. Regardless of the person, this is a terrifying move, man. When people talk about normalizing fascism, this is exactly what they're talking about. This is just from Twitter. Can you imagine what's going on Blue Sky? Could you imagine just for a moment what's going on Blue Sky? Donald Trump does not deserve to be Time Magazine's Person of the Year because of the dangerous impact he had on democracy. His actions, including undermining trust in the electoral process, he poses a serious threat to democracy. Okay, we had better people, but decided to go with the convicted felon. He's not a felon. CNN, meanwhile, full of coping and seething. Check out the wording of this passage. Despite the magazine's dwindling circulation, Time's Persons of the Year remains an annual cultural touchstone and distinction as becomes an obsession of sorts for Trump throughout the years. A Time cover naming him Person of the Year in 2009 hung in several of his golf clubs. The Washington Post reported nearly a decade later, there is no such issue ever printed. Ooh, dwindling readership. Is CNN really going to take a shot at somebody for dwindling leadership and or viewership? Not exactly the take I would take. Yeah, well, Time really isn't relevant anyway, and Trump is full of himself, so who cares? Come on, wokies, I know it's hard for you to laugh, but appreciate this poetic moment. The guy was indicted multiple times, took a bullet to the face, then got a job at McDonald's, became a president of America, and is now the Person of the Year. I mean, yeah, I'd agree that is quite the Cinderella story. Time Person of the Year, Donald Trump gives savage three-word takedown of Kamala Harris's failed presidential campaign. Interesting. Donald Trump's savage President Harris's failed White House bid in Time Person of the Year interview, saying her biggest mistake was taking the job at all. The president-elect, who was given the magazine's lofty title Thursday, said Harris' campaign was doomed from the start because you have to do what you're actually good at. Trump said he believes it also cost her the election to neglect to reach a wider audience on the campaign trail by speaking to streamers and podcasters such as Joe Rogan, as he did when she wouldn't talk to anybody. It's shone a light on her. She didn't do anything. People said, is there something wrong with her? Why would they? I mean, I'm doing this interview with you. I did interviews. If I had the time, anybody would ask, I'd do interviews, he said. I think the Joe Rogan interview, went on for almost 3.5 hours. Trump was declared the magazine's 2024 Person of the Year on Thursday after his stunning political comeback, which the magazine described as unparalleled in American history.
What is this shit? Trump won a lawsuit against ABC? Holy shit.
I still get judged for it today.
I'm asking you a very simple question.
And I answered it. You're shaming me for my political choices.
I'm asking you a question about why you endorse someone who's been found liable for rape.
Context. Trump just won this defamation lawsuit against ABC because he was never found liable for rape in his Jean Carroll trial. The jury found he was liable for abuse in the broader sense, but never for rape. An abuse verdict that has been actively challenged by the president with an ongoing appeal.
Well, you're welcome to say that, but you have to answer the question. Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape?
I just answered your question.
What is the answer?
He was not found guilty in a criminal court of law. It wasn't actually rape. And E. Jean Carroll joked about all the money she's going to get. And when you have someone who says that they're raped and they make a mockery out of this civil court judgment, it's offensive to other women. It makes it harder for other women to come forward.
As you said, because they are defamed by those who commit the rape. That's what Donald Trump has been found guilty of doing.
Oh my God. So it looks like ABC News is being forced to pay Donald Trump $15 million. Just in, ABC to issue apology to President-elect Trump, and they must publicly apologize to Donald Trump. George really fucked up, didn't he? He retweeted about it? Of course he did. No, he didn't. No, he just tweeted a picture of Chris Christie being fat. How do you do that? Content president. Bro, he's actually making AI art of this guy is a governor, it's Chris Christie, and is making fun of the drones that are over New Jersey. Yeah, it's just so fucking funny. Bringing a McDonald's. And with no caption, nothing. You know what he should do? He should donate this to Kamala Harris's campaign to pay off her campaign loans. It's time for the country to heal. It's time to move forward. What do you say, What do you say to that?
We got this from Mercury News.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys. So Trump is back. Trump is back. He's the good guy. He's the hero of the story, of the plot, and there's nothing stopping him now. Right? And everybody who used to be just so adamantly against him, they're just tossing him softballs and be like, oh, yeah, he won fair and square. He's a good guy. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here, guys? What is going on? Time magazine? Really? I don't know, man. what do you think, LD? I mean, are we getting set up here? Are we being played a fool?
Yeah. I hadn't realized that the Time magazine thing, from my point of view, I think, next year we're going to face a kind of cataclysmic economic downturn. So I think paralleling the pandemic situation in 2020, more of an economic pandemic. So
economic pandemic, dude. Save that for a show title.
Yeah. And that's, that has to do with the sovereign debt crisis in the Eurodollar countries and a system going back to the Marshall Plan we set up to help rebuild Europe, and that system being abused, and certain European bankers and their friends with the power out of the city of London. But so in some respects, yeah, like it seems almost like the system shifted and now wanted Trump stepping up to the plate to take the fall. But there is an interesting power shift where, I mean, this is a gross summarization, but like the Eurodollar system, what I've just been talking about, when people talk about the global reserve currency, the dollar, they're talking about this 90% of dollars that's spun up from banks overseas. Like, we gave the ability to these banks after World War II to lend in dollars. We didn't give them gold. We didn't give them money. We gave them the ability to lend in dollars. The system was abused by 1997. If you go to the Eurodollar Wikipedia page, you'll see like 90% of debt is issued in the Eurodollar system. So like 9 out of $10 being printed overseas. I didn't mean to get so far into it, but
no, dude. What I was gonna say, actually, because you've been elucidating, been kind of alluding to this, over the last like month or two about the Eurodollar market and the implications of that. You sent me that podcast I listened to, and I was like, bro, this is some deep stuff. Like, if you feel like you can speak on it, I feel like this would be a good time to kind of break it down for folks, to kind of your understanding of what this impending crisis is.
Yeah. So, the sovereign debt crisis. Like I was just saying, 90% of debt created in this Eurodollar market, it's basically 9 out of $10, this global reserve currency that people talk about. And it's all this money spun up with fractional reserve lending. And it's like these banks that didn't balance the checkbook. They just had money printers over there. But up until October 1st of this year, the price of the dollar was set by this LIBOR, London International Banking Overnight Rate, governed out of the city of London. So no American representation. So if somebody owns 90% of your company, is like calling the shots, who owns your company. Now, on October 1st of this year, we shifted over to SOFR, the Secured Overnight Financing Rate, which was like a white paper thing during the Obama administration, and then during Trump's first administration, the gears were put into motion to make this a thing. So you've got Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve. Now, people love to hate on the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell. There was that whole thing with him saying he wouldn't step down if Trump asked him to, but Trump's not asking him to. That was an interesting British reporter kind of making a soundbite situation. But over the past few years, with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, it's put a hurting on people outside of the U.S. in these Eurodollar markets borrowing dollars at a more favorable rate than Americans are able to borrow dollars. And the raising of rates, all of a sudden, these people get underwater. Then eventually a bunch of these people, then their debts have to be covered by their governments. So this building sovereign debt collapse or sovereign debt crisis, we're on the verge of a collapse, if you go back to like 2019 and Jackson Hole in August 2019, the Going Direct Reset document that was laid out by, BlackRock and Janet Yellen, that included CBDCs. That document's since been removed from BlackRock's site, which is interesting. I tried to find it recently, and you can get like an image of the first page, but with the archive.org going down, you can't really find that. But essentially, it seems that this plan leaked, and a few days before that, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, who used to employ Jerome Powell, whose nickname is Private Equity Powell, Jamie Dimon started telling Wall Street, we're not taking euro debt anymore. So then we had this repo crisis, which I think you've talked to. What's his name
Alex
again?
Craner. Alex
Craner, yeah. And I've listened to some great shows with him, talking with Tom Luongo on these topics tangential to this. But I'm gotten far afield, I guess. But if you look back at like the TARP, the housing crisis, $8 trillion had to be spun up. Well, 95% of that went to overseas banks. And then you come along to the COVID era, these banks needed $20 trillion or whatever, something close to that. And wouldn't you know, like, that was what was needed to spend for COVID. So like there's a building situation again, it's like compression. It's like a feedback loop. That system wants feeding again. And it's a possible situation where that system's about to collapse, and then you might have the collapse of the global manufacturing system that was enabled by building up all this cheap dollar lending overseas. So that, in a nutshell, I mean, yeah. I think there are very smart people that know a hell of a lot more than I, that are like, they're anticipating this economic downturn early in the Trump administration. And but the upside could be like, we have to start making stuff in the US again.
Sure, exactly. And and then also there's going to be, well, okay, so I will say, first of all, dude, thank you. I mean, like, it's such a complicated thing, and just like, even the repo market crisis was hard for me to understand. And now I can see how what's happening now with these other market issues, it is kind of an extension of that. It's like one continuation of the same kind of levers that are just kind of falling apart. And they anticipate and they expect us not to be financially literate to understand these concepts. Like that was like I think, what was that podcast that you sent me again? Can you kind of tell the audience? I think I have it here still.
I'm trying to remember which one.
No, I got it right here. So the podcast is called, and it's a good kind of breakdown of these topics. It's the podcast is called Contrarian Corner. K is both spelled with a K. Contrarian Corner. KK. Yeah. It's episode number 20 with Stormy Waters, who you referred to earlier. Yeah. Great show. Kind of breaks a lot of this stuff open and just helps me understand this a little bit. They both obviously have financial literacy, but they rely on us not having that, right? And it really is crazy to even see that, the system is, but we've been hearing truthers talk very much about, like, this current financial system, it's run its course, it's at its end. We have the digital currency, we have BRICS, like all these new things popping up, and so I don't know what's going to happen, but it feels like this all of a sudden, this shift to propping Trump up as like the hero, the good guy, giving him a pass, giving him an easy red carpet it can only be bad things, man. Like, that's the way I see it. I don't want to be optimistic or black-pilled about it, because I'm not. Because out of the rubble, we will build the world that it was always meant to be. But, seeing how the situation in the Middle East, Israel, Syria, Iran, dude, and then in combination with the financial stuff, like, we're in for a ride. So buckle up, folks. But we're going to be here memeing and talking trash the whole time, and it's going to be great. But, I'm just, oof, I don't know, man. I just don't have a good feeling about it. But the, so just build your community, build your local community, find your own resilience, get your own autonomy, and we'll ride this out. It'll be fine. Like, we'll be fine, folks. We'll be totally fine. But it's
Yeah.
really crazy stuff, man.
I believe there'll be a lot of opportunity, especially if people can save some powder and be able, if they want to buy a business in the near future or buy property, we could see real deflation, actually. And you've got like the baby boomer generation, the anomaly that was, and all kinds of wealth tied up in property. Like the simple example is like what happens when you got 5 sellers and 1 buyer.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Exactly.
oversimplifying it, but yeah.
Yep, I agree, man. So we'll see. We'll see. No matter what, we're just gonna be here along for the ride, talking shit, making memes like we do. That's how we do it. So, all right. Well, let's see here. What do we got up next? So Trump. We'll get off Trump's. We'll quit riding Trump for a little bit, and we'll see what Biden's been up to. And we've got Biden carries out the biggest single day act of clemency in history, and then we've got Biden commutes Chinese man with 47,000 child images. Wow. Way to go, Biden. So we got a little CNN, a little Timcast for you guys, and we'll be back in just a second.
Some breaking news this morning. President Biden putting his pardon power to use, just announcing he is commuting the sentences for over 1,500 people, including pardons for 39 people convicted of nonviolent crimes. To put it in context, this move is seen as the largest single-day act of clemency in modern history. This big unveil, of course, comes on the heels of Biden's full and unconditional pardon of his son Hunter that got so much attention. This is likely to as well. CNN's Arlette Saenz has much more for us from the White House this morning. Tell us more, Arlette.
Well, Kate, President Biden is using one of the remaining tools available to him in his final days in office to grant clemency to a wide swath of individuals. The president saying that this boils down to trying to give people a second chance. Now, in all, the president is commuting the sentences of nearly 1,500 individuals, the single largest act of clemency in a single day. To put that in perspective, the previous record was set by President Barack Obama when he commuted the sentences for 330 individuals in the final days that he was in office. Now, the White House says that these individuals who will be impacted were placed on home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the White House says that they have shown a commitment to rehabilitation and reintegration into their communities. On top of that act of clemency, the president is also pardoning 39 individuals who had criminal charges that they had faced, or not violent crimes that they had faced, and that includes drug offenses. Now, the president in his statement had said, quote, "America was built on the promise of possibility and second chances. As president, I have the great privilege of extending mercy to people who have demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation, restoring opportunity for Americans to participate in daily life and contribute to their communities." Now, it comes as President Biden has faced significant pressure to grant more clemency in his closing days in office. There are some who are pushing for him to take several dozen inmates off of federal death row. But this pressure for more acts of clemency really has heightened since President Biden had issued that full and unconditional pardon of his son, Hunter Biden, which really drew fierce backlash from Republicans and Democrats in the president's own party after the president for months had said that he would not do so. Now, an administration official said that the president's pardoning of his son doesn't really impact his view overall on the clemency power. They say that he's been committed to that as president. He believes it's a way to make the country a bit more just, also in some ways to try to deal with some of the wrongdoings of the criminal justice system in the past. And this is unlikely to be President Biden's final act of clemency. He did say that he is planning to take more steps in the final weeks that he is in office.
America was built on the promise of possibility and second chances. That's Joe Biden's message today as he commutes sentences for nearly 1,500 people and pardons 39 others convicted of nonviolent crimes. My panel is back. Priscilla, you cover the Biden White House. What more can you tell us?
Well, the president had been under increasing pressure to exercise his clemency power, and that is exactly what he did today. In fact, this is the biggest single-day act of clemency in modern history. So this is a large number of people. You mentioned there 1,500 individuals who he commuted their sentences. What we know about them is that they were in home confinement during the pandemic. And in those 39 individuals who were pardoned, they have shown, according to the president, a commitment to rehabilitating and to also for giving back to their community. So that is how they have described these. We are getting some names and some details as to who they are. That includes a military veteran, a nurse, an addiction counselor. And he also previewed that there will be more actions to come. But of course, this comes on the heels of his own pardon for his son, Hunter, a full and unconditional pardon that, of course, sparked uproar. We've also been reporting about some preemptive pardons that may be in the works, given concerns among some officials about being prosecuted or gone after when Donald Trump takes office. So it's all happening within that context, but certainly there are a lot of groups who have been calling for the president to do more on this, and they did get a big act on that front today.
So Joe Biden has gone on the largest single day of granting clemency that we've seen, 39 pardons and commuting 1,500 sentences. Holy crap, ladies and gentlemen. What's particularly egregious about this is the reporting that one of these individuals was in possession of child abuse materials to a rather extreme degree. And this man has been released. I'd like to know why. Now, I'm not a stupid person, and I assume most of you are not stupid. As though George Carlin did say, think about how stupid the average person is, now realize half of them are stupider than that. With that being said, you got to be real stupid, okay? We get it. There's political interests at play. Somebody with power, for some reason, wanted that guy out of prison. There's more to the story that we don't know. So let me make it quite simple for you. If you're going to release a man who had pleaded guilty to having 47,000 images of child abuse material, you're going to have to give us a real reason why, no matter what that reason may be. Now, I'm going to go ahead and believe that it's probably nefarious and someone in power offered somebody special treatment or a favor in exchange for this. Dirty. I know the president has the ability to pardon and commute. I get it. But I don't see there being a legitimate reason for the release of this man. Sorry. I go ahead and make your arguments. You're not going to find one. This is a person who pleaded guilty to this. I don't care if Xi Jinping himself said do it or else. You say there is a line that we will not allow you to cross. Sorry. I don't believe there's going to be a legitimate reason for this. This is shockingly disgusting. But let's read the story, and I'll give you the information from the Post-Millennial. We've got this. Biden issues 39 pardons, commutes 1,500 sentences. Quote, these actions represent the largest single-day grant of clemency in modern history. They say, on Thursday morning, the White House announced President Biden announced he is granting clemency to nearly 1,500 Americans, the most in a single day, who have shown successful rehabilitation and a strong commitment to making their communities safer. The president is commuting the sentences of close to 1,500 individuals who were placed on home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic and who have successfully reintegrated into their families and communities. He's also going to pardon 39 individuals who were convicted of nonviolent crimes. These actions represent the largest single-day grant of clemency in modern history. The Biden admin also suggested that more action will be taken to pardon and commute others in the last weeks of his term. This comes as Democrats have been angered by his reported selfish behavior in the last weeks he has in office. Biden has apparently put the priorities of other Democrats in the party on the back burner as he is working on his legacy and aiding in the transition of power from himself to Trump. Despite the rather large number of commutations and pardons, the most controversial likely remains the pardon of his son, Hunter Biden. This we understand. I don't think that will be the most controversial, however. The pardon from Biden did not just clear Hunter of the crimes, blah, blah, blah. We get it. Biden argued that Hunter was singled out. I give you this tweet from Brianna Morello. Breaking news, Joe Biden just provided a Chinese national with clemency who was convicted of having 47,000 child abuse images in his possession. Shanlin Jin was sentenced to 97 months in prison after pleading guilty. Plano police stopped going through his computer after confirming 1,338 images. Oh my, I can't even read this. It's rough. He pleaded guilty, huh? There's another image I want to show you from the Dallas Morning News. Alan Mann, who attended SMU, pleads guilty after 47,000 child abuse images. And I'm being light in the language. I hope you understand what that means. Are found on his computer. Shanlin Jin, a Chinese citizen, pleaded guilty to one count of possession of having those images in his possession. And here is the executive grant of clemency. Let's pull this up and make it a little bit larger and easier to read. To all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Whereas Shanlin Jin was convicted in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Texas on an indictment charging violations of Section 2252A, Title 18 U.S. Code, for which a total sentence of 97 months imprisonment, 5 years supervised release, restitution of $30,500, forfeiture of specific property, and a $100 special assessment was imposed on July 14th and 19th, 2022. Let me just make sure we're lining this up with the story as reported as well. So the Dallas Morning News doesn't actually have any of the finer details there in the headline. It goes on to say, whereas Shanlin Jin has been confined continuously since his arrest on January 24th, 2021, whereas it has been made to appear that it is in the national interest that the term of imprisonment related to the aforeshadowed conviction not be served in its entirety. Let it be known that I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, and in consideration of the premises divers, other good and sufficient reasons for reasons me, thereunto moving, do hereby commute the aforesaid total prison sentence related to the aforesaid conviction of the said Shanlin Jin, 2 times served, leaving intact any related term of supervised release in its entirety, and any unpaid balance of restitution order, forfeiture order, or special assessment upon the following conditions. 1. Shanlin Jin shall depart the U.S. 2. Shanlin Jin shall remain outside of the limits of the U.S. and its territories and possessions. Jin shall not commit any additional crimes against the United States or violation of its laws. 4. Shall waive the right and claims to funds and property already seized. 5. Shall not accept or otherwise receive any financial benefit, directly or indirectly, in any manner or amount from any book, movie, or other publication or production in any form or media about the circumstances surrounding the instant offenses or commutation. And 6. Shanlin Jin shall waive and release any and all claims, demands, rights, and causes of action whatsoever, kind and nature, against the United States of America, its agents, servants, employees, including any actions challenging its convictions of sentence. Conviction or sentence. That is to say, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden has just released a committed sentence of a man who had...
Because I was kind of looking at this as Tim was going on there, and there seems to be some opposing views to this particular story. So I'll show you this here. I don't really have a way to share my screen. Let me see. Don't know, because I know Rich always has the double screen sharing. Daily Bob. Let me see if I have the ability to do that.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So let me see if I can do this here. So. Okay, so this is a factcheck.org. Okay, you know, fact check. We know there's games that they play, and this is published December 13th, and so it's talking about December 12th. Joe Biden granted 39 pardons, 1,499 commutations of sentences, blah blah blah. And then it goes on to say that some other social media users have talked about how Biden flurry of clemency actions, blah blah blah. Breaking news, Joe Biden just provided a Chinese national with clemency who was convicted of having 47,000 child abuse images in his possession. Shanlin Jin was sentenced to 97 months in prison after pleading guilty. Okay, so, but they're claiming Jin's clemency was not part of the pardons issued by Biden on December 12th, and his name does not appear in the list of clemency recipients announced that day. Rather, Jin has been part of a widely reported prisoner swap. So this was a prisoner swap that occurred back in November. So apparently this Jin guy was exchanged for 3 Americans, John Leung, Kai Lee, and Mark Sweden, Swidan. And they were released to the U.S. following months of diplomatic efforts. So basically, this guy, this child porn guy, was released in exchange for these three guys. And so I pulled this here. So this is a photocopy of apparently the signed by allegedly Joseph R. Biden on this day, 22nd day of November in the year of our Lord 2024. That's interesting that official White House says Lord on there. That's very interesting. They still say that. So I don't know the authenticity of this particular form, but it looks pretty official to me. But apparently it says that Shanlin Jin was convicted in the United States. Blah, blah, blah for these. Sentenced to 97 months. And so this is his thing. Now, if he ever reoffends and blah, 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 shall grant and become effective. So anyway, so they're basically giving him clemency back on November 22nd. So I think that they're conflating two stories together. Tim might have, so I don't know. I mean, Tim might be right, and this could all be bullshit. But at the same time, there's this conflicting story saying that this Shanlin Jin guy was not part of the pardons. However, he was part of a prisoner swap with these three other gentlemen who were being held in captivity by China. So I asked perplexity.ai. This is a little fun little thing. And, this thing is wrong a lot. So I don't like base all of my information on Perplexity, but it is good for certain things. Like I typed in. So I looked up. So if we went back to the fact check, I got these names: John Leung, Kai Lee, Mark Sweden. And I asked the perplexity.ai, who are these guys? Who the fuck are these guys, eh? And it says John Leung is a 75-year-old former restaurant owner and political activist in Houston's Chinese community. Portrayed as a patriotic Chinese nationalist, but was actually an FBI informant gathering intelligence on China. So I think he got scooped up as an FBI spy over in China. And he was detained in China in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison for espionage. The second guy, Kai Lee, a Chinese-American computer scientist and professor at Princeton University, co-founder of Data Domain Incorporated, a storage duplication company. He was detained in China in 2016 and considered wrongfully detained by the U.S. government and the UN working group on arbitrary detention. So he was scooped up. Doesn't really tell us what. Let me see. I don't know if this is interesting to you guys or not, but so yeah, he was part of the prisoner swap. And then just the last guy real quick, Mark Sweden, businessman from Houston, arrested in China in 2012 on drug trafficking charges. So yeah, you don't go to China and traffic drugs, ladies and gentlemen. Sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve in 2019. And the UN working group on arbitrary detention found no evidence against him in 2017. So maybe he was accused, maybe he was set up, but he was arrested in China for drug trafficking. So yikes. That is not something you really don't want to go to. You think it sucks getting caught up in America trafficking drugs, folks. You really don't want to get caught up doing it in other countries. I'll tell you that. So I don't know. What
do you think about the idea that this guy with the images was, perhaps part of a blackmail operation?
I don't really know about that. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, he's that's probably what it was. We blame Mossad and Israel a lot for all that crap, but I'm sure the Chinese people are just as or the Chinese government, I should say, and their intelligence outfits are just as complicit in all that as the United States and Israel and all those guys. So yeah, I don't know. But it is interesting too that him being released and pardoned is kind of like them sweeping it under the rug, trying to make that whole situation go away. I don't know. I mean, that checks out. They're just running cover and protecting one of their own. There you go.
Tying up loose ends.
Tying up loose ends, baby.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. Oh.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.